When I announced, seems like a long time ago, 17 people running, I was the non-professional. Now we have one left, and in all fairness, she's lying in bed, getting better, and we want her better. We want her back on the trail.
That was last night from Donald Trump. Now she is back on the trail. Hillary Clinton entering an event in North Carolina to I Feel Good from James Brown. Let's bring in our panel. Syndicated columnist George Will, Fox News chief legal correspondent Shannon Bream, and syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer. George, your thoughts on her comeback and the day for Hillary Clinton in North Carolina?
It must be nerve-wracking being Hillary Clinton now. She's going to spend 8 weeks flying around breathing airplane air, something designed to give you a cough. She's not allowed to cough between now and the 8th of November. It's hard to tell at this point, and I don't know what they're thinking when they watch these polls. Are the polls indicating volatility in a race that could go up and down and bounce around, or are we seeing a slow, long-term trend that favors Mrs. Clinton? There's so many things that could make this volatile, particularly the debates. Mr. Trump has been on his good behavior, which is to say he's been on a teleprompter. There'll be no teleprompter on those stages, and I'm sure the Clinton people are working on ways to detonate him, to get him excitable.
Well, you're talking about the polls there. Fox News poll out, the head-to-head match has Trump up 1. The four-way match has him trailing 1, but essentially a tie race, and that matches New York Times and CBS national polls. But what's really interesting, Shannon, are these state polls. Let's take a look at Iowa, out today. Iowa Monmouth poll, in the preference poll, Trump up 8 in Iowa there, and it is a move of a number of points in just a short period of time. And then you take a look, you got Iowa there, Monmouth? Anyway, you take a look at Ohio. There's Monmouth University, and Ohio, you have 3 polls in the past few days that show Trump up. Clearly, this is a move.
Well, and it's interesting, like George said, you try to figure out, is this a trend? Is this a one-off? What's happening here? Because as we have been covering this for more than a year, watching these primaries, the debates, the back and forth, the fact is that a lot of people don't start paying attention until Labor Day. That's more the traditional time that the rest of the country tunes in. So is some of this information new to them? Was it bad timing for the Clinton campaign that she had this illness, that there are more and more revelations regarding the email situation? Is it all peaking at the right time for Trump? There's already voting that's beginning, as we all know, some absentee ballots and some early voting. So with the polls, knowing that they could be in flux a lot between now and the election, and those debates could be critical, people are already making their decisions. I
heard somebody the other day, Charles, say that this was the Seinfeld election, an election about nothing, because it's about character so far. It's about how the other person can't be president. Today, both candidates tried to hit on some substance. Here's Donald Trump on an economic plan creating jobs.
It's time to start thinking big once again. That's why I believe it's time to establish a national goal of reaching 4% economic growth. In working with my economic team, we put together a plan that puts us on track to achieve that goal. Over the next 10 years, our economic team estimates that under our plan, the economy will average 3.5% growth and create a total of 25 million new jobs.
What do you think?
Well, yes, we have 2 policies. His is a unicorn economy, and hers is no proposals at all other than these little items to relieve stresses in ordinary life.
Now, she will say there are 38 of them on her website.
That's what she said in her speech. I can't think of a duller thing to say in a speech. If that's what you're advocating, if that's how you're trying to persuade a crowd, well, why don't they stay home and look at the website? And when you say that, you've said nothing. There's no overarching idea. It's more of the same. And with him, it's the magical power of huge tax cuts, no entitlement changes, and we're going to get a miraculous spurt in growth that's going to be sustained. We'll pay for all of this, including cutting waste, fraud, and abuse. It's not a serious debate. As you said, it is an election about nothing, and I think these attempts at substance are proof of that.
Behind the scenes, though, George, people will tell you, Republicans who have talked to Trump team members that they're pretty specific on getting rid of regulations on corporate taxes and tax reform being a high priority, and that their pitch behind the scenes is pretty attractive to a number of people, not just lawmakers, but business leaders.
All of those things are important, as is the fact that we have just finished a lost decade. The first decade, perhaps ever, in which America did not have a single year of 3% economic growth. 3.5% that Mr. Trump promises is not extravagant. Jeb Bush in the primaries talked about 4%, but 3.5% would change America overnight. The difference between 3.5% and 2% growth, which we've been averaging for about a decade, is a politics focused on increasingly angry distributional conflict. That is, trying to use politics to carve up a static pie or getting the pie to grow again. So Mr. Trump is certainly talking about the right things, in general in terms of growth, but also in terms of regulation and taxes.
All right, two quick polls. The certainty of vote preference I want to put up here. Clinton supporters versus Trump supporters. There's a lot of talk about whether Trump could rally Republicans. Look at this. 90% Trump supporters say certain to support, and you see the difference there with the Clinton supporters. The next one, well, who would you rather have as Democratic nominee? And this goes to enthusiasm on the Democratic side. This is August to now, and Bernie Sanders is on here. He's gone up from August. He's not in the race anymore. But there is some thought that Clinton is having some trouble motivating, getting enthusiasm in the base of the Democratic Party.
Yeah, what we see anecdotally, of course, at the Trump rallies are tens of thousands of people showing up. Now, that doesn't always translate, as we know, having covered this in many other elections, into what happens at the ballot box. But a lot of people will say his base is way more fired up, especially when she makes a comment about half of them being in a basket of deplorables. That works for him.